Good afternoon, Mr. Bender.
Mr. Bickle, just walking by your house this morning.
Oh,
There's Lee. Hi, Lee.
Hi, Bruce. How are you?
Good. I don't think that's a big enough jar, Lee.
Hydration is key.
Peter, welcome to the Impact Fee Advisory Committee.
Got two Jeremys.
Jeremy.
Hi, everybody.
Dale, I said thank you for the welcome, and I realized I was mute.
And I said, at what point can we say this is our document that we're going to be talking?
Can anybody hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you, John.
I for some reason I keep getting kicked out of the meeting. Maybe that's on purpose. Dale, do you have a kill button or something that?
Not as far as you know.
Hi, John. This is Lisa. And
Hi, Lisa.
I think it might have been the problem because I had to promote you to a panelist. So you had
Okay.
to rejoin, and you're the co-host now. But if you have any more trouble with it, let me know. We'll see what we can figure out.
Okay,
All right. Thanks.
thank you. I'm trying to pull up. Are we ready to get started? Do we have everybody here we need?
You do have a quorum.
Six, there's a quorum.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, there are no attendees in the participants that are public. So Aaron Wilson just joined. He's city staff.
Okay. Well, I guess we can skip reading the public comment script. Does anybody have any public comment from the group?
You want to start with, well, Lisa, we should just give anybody, because we're streaming live on YouTube and on eScribe.
Okay.
Yeah,
We should.
Excellent. The streaming is just getting started here, and I will display the slides about how public can make comments should they need to, as soon as the computer finishes thinking.
John,
Yes.
I have a late addition to the agenda. We'll go over the financials quickly, if we can do that at the front. We didn't get it on the original published agenda.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful if no one has an objection to that.
Okay. And this is Lisa again. The streaming is still thinking its process through here. So
Okay.
Also, there is Lisa, could you please Aaron Wilson, panelist,
yes, I sure can.
and then Michael Belport may be an attendee. Is he part of any? I'm not sure if Mr. Belport is public member or part of the presentations.
He does. Let's see. He has his hand up here. I can allow him to Hello?
Mr. Belport, I think you're able to speak. If
Can-
are you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I'm just from the public. I'm here. I'm supposed to be doing a community engagement deal for my college, and so I was just here to sit in and hear throughout the whole thing, if that's acceptable.
Very good. Welcome.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And I will share the screens on how others can join.
Lee, could you email us those financials?
All right. And just let me know if you would like me to take roll.
Can you take roll through the participants list? Would that be?
Yep, I sure can. Let me just pull that up and I can go through and call. Let's see here.
It would be helpful to introduce the newest members. Some of us, I don't know the new members.
All right. Just wait for our list to pull up. Everything in this computer seems rather slow today, so it must be expecting it's Friday. All right, so we have Bruce Bender.
Here.
Maria Chestnut had said she was going to be out today. Dwight Easton. Not available. Jerry Ford.
Dwight, Lisa, Dwight is here.
Have to
Dwight
unmute
is here,
yourself fast enough, and I didn't do that, so.
Okay,
Operator error. I'm here, thank you.
okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And for your patience with me being new. Jerry Ford.
Don't see him.
All right. John Freer is here. Jim Gallipo.
Here.
Nick Kaufman.
I'm here, Lisa, but Mr. Chairman, I will not be voting on item number 3.2.5 George Elmer and Cattle Drive, nor on 3.3.1 special Mullen transportation fee to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest. Thank you.
Hank Trotter. Appears to be not here. All right. So I think we are ready to get started.
Great. Well, welcome everybody. It's kind of been a while since we met, but it's good to.
Hey, John, sorry, but
Yeah.
so new member, and so perhaps I wasn't on the list there, but Peter Walker Kelleher.
Oh, thank you for that.
I'm not a Zoom bomber.
Yes, hey, that's okay. That's all right. Thank you. Get you added here.
And if the proper protocol is to recuse oneself at this point, as Nick Kaufman did, I would be doing the same as it relates to the Mullen build request.
Okay. Great. Well, welcome Peter and everybody else. So next up, approval of the minutes. I'm sure that everybody has scoured through and read the minutes from our January 29th, 2020 meeting. Does anybody have any? Well, somebody would motion to approve.
Well, I move to approve.
And Dwight will second.
No, I have a correction to the minutes, please. On adjournment, I don't believe we went all the way until 10:58 PM. It's interminable, but they're not quite that long.
They're both times are wrong.
Yeah.
We started at 9 PM also.
Thanks for catching that, Dwight. That was actually the time that Bruce and I left the Mar Bar. So we had a correction. We had a motion to approve. Did somebody second?
I'll second it.
And if you all want to, we can just use a participants list. If you guys want to go down and just click OK for votes, we don't have to chime in. Do we have that ability on this Zoom?
You could use the raise hand feature.
Yes, that would be fine. And I could just watch it from there.
I don't have it on my link.
Very bottom of the screen.
Yeah, it's for some reason not on my screen today.
It's missing from mine too, Dale.
Oh,
So if you are in favor, let's make this easy and just do a visual. Raise your hand. Do we have anybody opposed? Nope. So minutes are accepted. We do have public. So if we have any public comment, I will read you this. Or do you have a slide for this, Lisa?
Yep, I can certainly put that up again here. No problem at all.
If someone will have public comment, you can use the raise or lower hand feature to be recognized, and then Lisa can take you off mute. Don't forget to unmute your microphone. If you do want to speak, if you're calling in by phone, you can raise and lower your hand by pressing *9, and you can use *6 to mute and unmute if you have any comment. With that, do we have any public comment?
Lisa, I did note that Ryan Applegate is the attendee list with Parks and Rec, and he will need to be promoted to a panelist for Parks items.
Certainly. Thank you. And he's waiting out. Promote him now. Thank you, Dale.
Okay, and so we have an update on the agenda 3.1, which is the financial review. I guess point of order, can we move that up? Do we have any objections to moving that up and adding that into the agenda? See none. And then I heard Nick had requested to get the financials emailed. Will we see those then?
I just sent those
Okay.
about 60, just a minute ago. So those should be happening. I can also do a share screen and walk through those. Hopefully
Great.
those come through so people can look at them more closely on their own screen as well.
That'd be helpful.
Thumbs up. Okay. They've been sent. Please let me know if you don't get them. And I will go ahead and share the screen. So our FY20 revenues came in at 1,371,000 and change. And since it's been so long that we've met, I thought I would just do a quick run through. This first section here was the CIP that we did, the initial planning, and then the section down below, starting in the green bar, shows you what we were able to actually accomplish for the year. So we did end FY20 with $2.3 million in ending fund balance, strong position. As we move into FY21, I want to note that we have in total projected revenues, because we really don't know the total year until usually August of the following year, of 1.6 million. But so far, we have receipted in about 1,015,000. And that's before permits really start happening in the spring. So I anticipate the actual revenues to be considerably higher than what we have projected so far. Now, the new requests coming in, there's a slew of these that are going to be discussed by folks today. These are the ones with the blue star as new requests. And then the projections have some CIPs. It's sort of a combination of the CIP budget and some information from some folks. And we're still dialing those in for the later years. So as that gets firmed up, I'll be sending out a follow-up of projections to the committee. I looked the wrong screen, so I've got to hide this really quick. And those projections are showing some negative balances at the end of 21. But again, I understand that there are a lot of pieces that are in play with these projects and with those potential revenues coming in. So we'll be looking at those closely to make sure that nobody ends up in the red. And did folks receive the Excel document? Okay. So just to clarify, in that Excel document, what we have are out years that are approved. They're not funded so far. These always come back in front of City Council as well as in front of the Impact Fee Advisory Committee before folks start expending on those specific projects. And those will often change throughout the year as things happen with some of these larger multi-year projects, which is why we then sort of do a combined actuals and projections presentation to the committee. Do folks have any questions?
Lee, you said something about out years. What does that mean?
So that means anything past this current fiscal year.
Okay.
So we're in fiscal year 21, that will end on June 30th. We start our budgeting process in March. We'll have to schedule another impact fee advisory committee. Not sure when exactly that'll happen. I think Dale wanted to speak to that towards the end of this meeting. So that then new projects that have been identified and changes to projects that have been brought forth will be brought forth to both IFAC and City Council.
So Lee, I have a, so I'm trying to remember back to other financials. So be patient with me for a minute. So when I look at those deficits, and I realize we're growing pretty fast, and we'll probably get more revenue than we expect because of the Zoom boom. But in previous years, have we started out with that large of deficit in our projections?
Yes, a few times we have. And it's been, I remember the very first time we did this, and we did it for a Tiger grant. And we knew that there were going to have to be, projects were going to have to be sort of, this could be a bit of a moving target to move the timing around on some of those things. If we did in fact receive that grant, I don't remember how much we were asking for in impact fees at that time. I think it was about $2 million. It turned out we didn't end up getting that grant. So then we went back and reshuffled the projects and determined the appropriate priority level.
So as we look at the items that I think were starred over in the A column, starting with the Mullen Road Build Grant and cemetery and some other things coming up, as we make our decisions today, can we be safe that we're actually going to have enough revenue when it comes time for these projects to actually be funded, given the red ink down at the bottom?
Well, as I mentioned, we are already ahead of projections for revenues for the year, and it's going to be a conversation that needs to happen about the timing. So these get approved, and I know that there's going to be a discussion about some additional impact fees. It's just going to have to be an at the moment, or not just at the moment, but an ongoing analysis of where both the plans and the revenue are sitting.
And Lee, aren't some of those projects multi-year anyway? I mean, the funds will not be expended in the next fiscal year, or?
The fiscal year ends in the middle of the construction period. So it's very unlikely that these projects, the timing of these projects, these expenses roll out, within a fiscal year. But that's the planning that we have to do pursuant to state law. So we do always know that there are moving pieces.
I think Dwight you had a question or comment, Dwight?
Yeah, I just had a question at looking at the spreadsheet on my spreadsheet, at least starting in line 138 going to 152. Those are all blocked in gray. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
You bet. So that was from a prior year. And this is me trying to hurry and get it off to you without hiding all of those columns. But so that was the impact fee projection coming from FY19 and FY20. And as you can see, if you look at the difference between the projects that are not grayed out, and the ones that are in white, there are a lot of changes that happen with projects, from year to year. Those are not being pulled, they should not be getting pulled into your totals.
So that should not be totaling in line 155?
Correct.
Or the deficit, I should say, 154.
Correct.
Jim, you had a question?
Well, I was just going to comment. It seemed like about, and time flies, I'm not exactly sure, but I remember when we maybe last had a meeting over in the city council, everything right next to the Mar Bar. And we talked about that because that was the first time that we'd ever kind of done an extended look at the finances, and it was a sea of red. And so, you know, I brought that up and said, well, how does this work? I mean, we're budgeting things that are already in the red as far as we can see. And we did discuss it at that time that, well, that may be true, but we can't do it if we don't have the money. So even if we approve something, if the money's not there, it can't be done. It is my understanding, because there's no money. So
It's somewhat contingent on the revenue actuals coming in. Exactly.
Right. So this isn't the first time that we've seen that red, and I have a feeling that we will probably see it, you know, from now on as more things get put on it in advance of really knowing when things are going to get built out and what kind of revenues are going to be coming in. I don't particularly like it as an accountant, but you know, that's just the way it is right now.
So, Mr. Chairman, I have a question, and a question for you too, Jim. I mean, could we qualify any recommendations on approval for funding based on the funds being available? So I'm looking at line 116 through 122, all of those we talked about today. And I'm looking at the deficit at the bottom. Yeah, I'm just, you know, we've got a fiduciary responsibility here. And
John?
Yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
Well, you know, maybe Dale and Lee can respond to this, but I'm not really certain the Impact Fee Advisory Committee's responsibility is to manage the budget. And my understanding was we are really project orientated, and you know, we're supposed to, but I don't recall off the top of my head. I'm just sitting here thinking about it anyway, that that really is a responsibility of the administration, is to manage revenues, and that aspect of it's not ours. We don't approve a project. Ours is supposed to be approval for eligibility and the way they are funding it. But I don't think we get involved in whether there's enough revenue or what the balance is. I think that's more for information. But Dale, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I think I agree. It's administration responsibility, though. I think Impact Fee Advisory Committee would have a keen interest in that. I think Nick's idea that, you know, having these approved contingent on revenue availability is completely appropriate. I think that would be great. I would know. I think you know, Dwight, your question about the thing, I think there is, you know, looking at this, I think there is a formula error in here, and I think it is overstating the expenditures on that first year. So I think you know, we'll take a look and revise, because I think that needs to be just make sure that report is accurate.
Yeah. So,
the other thing we got to do here, and I think in our future conversations in this meeting, and we'll talk about, is that a lot of the transportation impact fee numbers that is really driving the big deficits here. A lot of the build grant things are going to be consolidated relative to the bigger overall build grant project, and you'll see. So I think you'll see that as we kind of get back onto a meeting cadence here, where we take with the COVID hiatus. Appreciate all your patience in us getting this and then shifting to an online format here. But we will. But I think you'll see that the build project, which is driving a lot of that deficit, is we're proposing a way to get through that project funded.
So I'll just jump in. I think Bruce, I don't remember the exact wording of our charge, but it's to review the collection, assessment, and implementation of impact fees. And so it's a little gray in whether we're looking at the spending of it. If I think by practice historically, and Lee can correct me if I'm wrong, but we're projecting some deficits, but I don't think they're doing deficit spending for the most part on impact fees. But I don't know that I think what we do historically is look at projects in the applicability and the eligibility for impact fees. And then I think it's up to the administration to make sure that they're financially responsible in spending those impact fees.
So, Dale,
One thing that would, you know, and we did talk about this last time. Well, what is our job to do? It's not to, you know, to look at the finances and they can't overspend, yada, yada, yada. But I guess it puts it in a position where if we say yes, 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 we know there's deficits, then when it comes time to do the projects, somebody else is determining which is the most important and you know, what gets done, what might not get done. And so it just feels a little weird from, you know, for me to be in that situation where, you know, you don't want to kill every project, but yet you don't want to just approve every project, not knowing when it's going to get funded or if it's going to get funded, who's going to decide, does that project make it? Because we've got limited funds. So it's just it's an odd position to be in for me as a committee member.
I just want to make sure I'm reading a line 155 correctly, Dale. So for transportation, it's 2,240,000 deficit, but for parks, it's 627 deficit. We're good on community services and we're up to 911 on fire. So we collect these in rubrics. They're not brought together all in one fund. So transportation isn't really driving the deficits I see on line 155. I see deficits in each of the columns for the impact fees we're collecting, except for community service and police. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, and I guess, well, I mean, you know, the 2/3 of the deficit is transportation listed there.
So Lee, did you go ahead?
So I just wanted to let folks know, as part of the process, impact fee fund is probably one of the funds that comes in front of the advisory committee and city council more than anything else. So these projects are being presented to the impact fee advisory committee right now. Some of them have been approved by city council during the year's budget approval process. And some of them will be brought forward to city council in a budget amendment. And it is at that time, if we're amending any of this, that we need to be responsible to city council to discuss the funding source and how solid that funding source is, and how, you know, where the revenues sit at that particular time. So that again goes to that there are multiple sort of steps here. And I think the big challenge is that those revenues are coming in throughout the year, and we don't always see them broken out into those 4 buckets in real time. That is actually something we are working with folks and that Acela permitting software to see if we can get that changed. So then, for example, folks could see we're projecting $1.6 million, but we have 1 million in and it's in these places. So to get that more real-time picture, which is what we would also be bringing to city council with budget and budget amendments.
So does that answer your question, Nick? Or, and I guess my follow-up question too, it's my understanding, Lee, we've had this discussion before, primarily the deficit projections that we have are for that. They're for projections, and if projects move into the next fiscal year or they don't happen, we're still really only spending the impact fee money that we have. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, John, I want to be really fair to Lee and to Dale. I really appreciate the financials. I really appreciate the organized order and the clarity. John, you know, I've been on this committee for a long time and we've seen financials improve geometrically since we first started. But it's fair when we look at these to know that they're a work in progress, right? And so what I'm looking for is trends, and I appreciate you all listening to my questions and answering them, and I'm good to go.
Great. Thank you, Lee. No other questions? I think we can move forward. Next up is project update on the storage facility. Is that Dale? Is that you?
I would.
That'd be Jeff
Chief
Brandt.
Brandt.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Yeah, just so the committee approved a percentage of that, and I believe it was around 65%. I'll have to think back in December of 2019 through this committee, and what has happened through that winter time and then through the COVID time, that project has not taken shape at all. We are in our architect is ready to submit plans. We're very close to submitting plans for approval through the engineers and stuff like that for that project at Station 3. And so while that was approved in December 2019, we hope to get into the ground this spring. And one unfortunate deal about waiting from approval of last spring to this spring is certainly the 30 to 40% increase in materials costs, and another reason why we're wanting to make sure we wait till spring, because everybody knows that getting into the ground during the winter and cost of concrete and about 15% more. So I absolutely believe that we are underfunded for this project, and I will be working with our administration to try to figure out how we tie those two ends together.
Great. My only question, Jeff, is where you're getting your materials that they only went up 30 or 40%.
Yes, sir. Isn't that something?
Yeah. Any other questions on that? If not, I think you're still up for the new request.
Yeah, you bet. So we're asking for a side-by-side UTV. We realized about 4 years ago the need for a side-by-side and rescue unit in this. We got the avenue of a surplus being fire rescue into a federal system. And 3 years later, which was last year, we actually we got a used TV UTV out of Kentucky and transported that up here. As we put that vehicle in place and seeing that versatility of that unit and a greater need that continues to evolve, where I'm coming before you today to ask for another UTV. This UTV has, I guess I just described that as it's a side-by-side, and then it also will have a unit in the back that has a small tank of water and a pump, and also a rescue unit. The reason for utilization for this unit is just what we've seen in the growth of the city. So as the city continues to annex and grow and for trails and parks, our accessibility, we're seeing struggles of being taking the big red fire engine into the trail connectivity, and this unit does that a lot more effective and a lot more efficient. We were looking at, as in the last few years, Missoula is growing, and we're continuing to see larger events. And I think Osprey Field is a huge event as we are growing, and that Osprey Field grew from a venue of about 6,000 folks, and we went and jumped that to 14,000. And so having access down into that riverfront project as we look forward is very important. As we look at projections of like the Drift, which was unfortunately put on hold, but that development is going to continue, and that need for the amount of traffic, the amount of people coming into the city and taking that, being able to get on scene with the right tools and tools and equipment is very important. So today I'm asking you for that unit to help us continue to meet the level of service that we have and the growth that we're experiencing in the city, around the city, and area.
I have a question. So Jeff, thank you for the presentation. So these things come in different widths, and we have urban trails that are wide enough to accommodate the wider side-by-sides, like the 700s, 1000s, 1100s, and we've got narrow trails that would accommodate, say, the 500s. And so my question is I guess we're balancing here the needs for urban events with the ability to respond on our trail system as well.
Nick, I didn't catch all of that, sir.
So the use of it, as I understand it, is for fire response and emergency response for events in the urban area as well as on our trail systems.
So yes, we are utilizing this unit for access. Yes, for fire and rescue.
You might want to consider in your next purchase to get one narrow one to go along with the two wide ones, because those narrow ones will let you have access on your narrower trails.
Okay.
Jeff,
So, Jeff, go ahead, Dwight.
has this unit ever been put before the council for your general budget?
No, we have not been able to do that. Right.
When you say not able,
So as I guess I'll just state that as far as our core replacement not our core replacement, but our ask for this for a unit, we have not taken that opportunity to put that before council.
thank you.
John?
Go ahead, Bruce.
So Jeff, my understanding of how you explain this, you're expanding your service equipment here. And that's what makes this eligible for impact fees, because you're expanding your fleet, you're expanding your service with this piece of equipment. Is that correct?
What we're seeing is the need as the connectivity through the city has grown, and as we're putting trails and parks through most corridors and the annexations that we've seen, we're seeing a need to have a vehicle to be able to respond into those new areas and be able to provide that service as we're traveling down the trails and the lack of access with our larger engines.
Right. So to answer Dwight's issue about going through general fund, I mean, my understanding why you would bring this through impact fee is that you're expanding basically your fleet. You're not replacing your fleet, you're expanding it due to the service needs, which is what impact fee is all about, right?
Yes, sir.
Does that get to your point, Dwight, at all? Or?
I think it helps some, but yeah, we're always looking for kind of the nexus to it. And I was encouraged by the fact that you had sought out, and this would be a additional vehicle that does help a little bit with some of my concerns. And thank you for answering that in the presentation.
Yeah, and I want to follow up. And Jeff, that was I guess the first question I have. I'm assuming that these things have at least a 10-year life expectancy, and then based on the form, I didn't see which methodology specifically you were using that would attribute 100% of the cost of this to growth. And so it's an expanded capacity, but I didn't see anything used to quantify that expansion and the capacity of it.
if I can jump in, I'll answer two questions. One, I think, so I'm gonna back up a step. Dwight, related to council approval. So this UTV is included in the CIP. It was approved in the mayor's capital improvement program, but it wasn't funded because we were seeking impact fee advisory, impact fee funding for it. So once, should the committee approve it, then the actual purchase and budget authority goes to council. So that's, I mean, it's been contemplated in our plans. It's not, this isn't the, it was included in our capital improvement process in the budget process for last year. Related to growth, this is so what what this represents is an expansion of the fleet due to growth, and so that's why Chief Brandt deemed it 100% attributable to growth, because in the absence of having it before, it is because of growth that we need this unit now.
Once again, we're stuck here where I appreciate the need for it and want to support the request in whole. There's no methodology to support that. It's certainly being used both in existing corridors and trail systems as well as ones that are attributable to growth. And so it's just questioning how it can be attributed to growth 100%.
So Dale, this is Nick. The one and only thing we have are those worksheets, and we updated those with Tischler Weiss when we updated the ordinance, right?
No, not yet, actually.
All right. So as committee members, what are we supposed to use? I mean, it's great to get information at the meeting, but it's a lot more fun to get the information in the application forms in the way we expect it.
Yeah, I hear you. So actually, at the end of when we updated the study last time, we started the updates to the forms, but that is an open item related to our previous contract, and that was something that we talked about it at our previous IFAC committee meeting, and I think there was. So that just warrants, we need to finish that aspect of this. I've talked with Colin, is with Tischler Weiss on this, who's going to walk us through, and he's been aware of that, but we didn't have the time on this agenda to deal with that particular issue. So that is still out there. So what that means is that we are still working from our original form.
So John, getting to your point, I just think Jeff needs to finish item number 3 there on the form, and basically say a new facility serve new development. I mean that under a capacity increase B, 3B, is where that should probably be filled out, because this is an expansion, yes, and then capacity is 100%.
And that certainly is my fault for not filling that out. I apologize for that. But yeah, to our existing, we were able to have a unit right now, but certainly the new annexations out in up on South Hills and what's been going on in inner city of that the new trails and the new roads are showing that, and that's what this vehicle is designed for.
Yep. So Dale, if we are going to have another meeting here shortly, can we get this updated and then maybe have that discussion at our next meeting?
Absolutely. I think that would be our intent. We want to get back to a quarterly cadence of these meetings. And there's going to be, there'll be other projects we'll want to bring forward in the short term. COVID did slow down, you've
Sure.
heard Jeff talk about the slowdown in their facility designs. So, but yeah, we will work on that. I think, and what I would want to actually do even before maybe a impact fee advisory committee, we could do it at a full meeting, but I think a work session with some folks too, because I think there is I think there's a lot of philosophical discussions to get done with the consultant and staff and members of IFAC. It might be better if we could schedule a work session even to work through some of those things.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And it is, Nick, the scope of work for that impact fee update is not done. And the thing that's not done is this form. And I think it's really critical because it doesn't give staff the right direction. And then it does really make it a little more difficult for us to have discussions. So if we could prioritize that would be appreciated. Do you have a question, Nick? So do we have a motion for this, or do you want to table this one and bring it back?
I'm comfortable approving it, but if there's somebody uncomfortable with it, I don't want to push it.
I'm not comfortable approving it right now, Bruce.
You're not, Nick? Okay.
No, I'm not. All respect to Jeff, our chief. We have, this is serious stuff. We need to get our work done. And then we need to give Jeff the tools, and we have to be able to see those tools completed so we can make a decision.
Jeff, do you want to work on this and bring this back to our next meeting, which I hope is not very far from this one?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Who's up next? Ryan.
Hello. It's good to see everyone. Sorry that my video is not working right now. I hope everyone is well. I think Park Springs 3 applications today. I think the first one on the agenda is Redfern Park. Redfern Park is out off of Mullen and is part of the new area that was annexed into the city, I believe in late 2019, I want to say. It has an existing playground that does not meet a lot of the current standards and doesn't have much play value. It's pretty old and in disrepair. Currently, we have a swing closed on it. And we would like to, as part of our master plan, kind of dictates in terms of a neighborhood park servicing that area is needed, use impact fees to dramatically increase the capacity of that playground. It will be both bigger footprint and, as that application says, will provide much more play value, so more people can play on it with new equipment and better designed equipment. We think it's about a $250,000–300,000 playground, maybe a little bit more. The amount of children that we estimate will be serviced increases from 10 to 60. That's how we put the methodology to 83% of impact fee funding. And I'm sorry, I think 200,000 is about the playground estimate. We're hoping to work with the neighborhood there to raise additional funds. Yeah, at this time, we would like to ask for 166,000. There is, I think, the adopted master plan in your application packet, along with the narrative as well. Certainly entertain questions and comments. Thanks for your time.
Do we have any questions? Thanks, Ryan. And I think you said 156, but your request is 166,000.
That is correct, yeah.
Questions for Ryan?
So, John,
Yes.
so Ryan's calculation here is exactly, I think, what we're talking about. He's shown exactly the capacity increase in it. He's going from serving approximately 10 children to 60, and so he's got an increase there of 50 over 60, 83%. So is that how you determine 166 is 83% of the cost?
That's correct, yeah, of about 200,000.
Yeah, okay. So this one is, yeah, kind of meets our current criteria, how we calculate.
Do we have any, and anybody want to make a motion?
I move to approve.
Do we have a second? Does anyone want to second the motion to approve?
I'll second.
Do we have any further discussion on this?
Ryan, I see that in the packet, you give a kind of just I guess it's, I'll call it an overview. It's a rendering, but there is no other specifications that you gave with the packet that I'm seeing. I'm missing something.
I believe there is you're talking about kind of the picture of the adopted master plan where it says number 4, and that's the playground area. And then I believe I included also the narrative to the master plan. And that's the only 2 documents, I think, other than the application that I included in the packet. Does that answer your question?
I guess what I was looking for is more of a kind of a scoping document that would list out the cost. You're shooting us a cost of $200,000. Where does that arise from?
That arrives from conversations with our parks and trail planners to get to an estimated total cost, and is based on kind of a similar playground that we did at Rose Memorial of a similar size. And so it is not projected and scoped out, though it is informed by our people on staff that do this. And that's how we arrived at the overall project. That's how we arrived at the overall cost that we're asking for right now. So we're not at the point where we've done that work yet to that specificity.
And maybe this is I like the second time that I've come, so help me out, Dale, and I'll direct this to you if I might. Is that normally something that would come as part of a package to kind of help outline the costs associated, since we were looking for a percentage?
Dwight, usually a lot of times I think, no, we won't see them as developed projects yet.
Okay.
Just because sometimes they don't know where they're going to fund them, and they need to know if they're going to be eligible for impact fees before they can even start the design process. And if the project does turn out to be larger than that, we're not approving a percentage right now. We're approving that amount. So if they wanted to get additional impact fees attributed to this project, they bring that back to the committee.
What if it comes in later, less?
Sometimes what we've done is we've said 83% not to exceed, 83% of the actual cost not to exceed $166,000. And that's how we've dealt with that. So if it does come in, say it comes in at 150, well, it would be 83% of 150. I think that's the appropriate way, because if we're going off a percentage, then that's what we should have done. And I should have made that comment before I even seconded that motion, that we should approve it with, 83% not to exceed $166,000.
And I'll put that in my motion, Jim.
Okay, I accept the change.
Accept the
as the
amendment.
second.
Thanks for that education. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Dwight. Any other questions? Well, go ahead, Jim. Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, passes. Thank you, Ryan. You're still up. Play fair.
Great, thank you. So Playfair Park, the parks came to the Impact Fee Advisory Committee, I think in 2018, requesting some funds for working to get to the master plan that identifies really badly needed capacity increases at Playfair Park. This will be a large project, and we're looking at this time to increase the ask from what was approved as 120 at 20,000 by an additional 130,000, so that we can get to a new playground there, getting lighting on the tennis courts, which will greatly increase use there, get the playground updated so it can have a lot more, and turn some of the fields that are single use into multi-use fields and lighted as well. Playfair Park is a really great park in a really good location in town, and it is needing, especially in conjunction with the work at the fairground, needing to, expand that area so that it services the way it can service. And so the ask is now is for an additional 130 to bring a total approval from impact fee funds to 150,000 for this project. The I think methodology is based on the citywide community facility service increase. In our CIP, we put it at 5 million, and kind of from the 2002 growth at 2%, it could go for, the way that calculation works, it could go for a large portion. We don't have that fees. So our ask right now is 150,000. I think that's Playfair.
And so Ryan, based on the timeline of this, I'm assuming once you do have that development plan, you'll have a much better target than that 5 million number, and probably
correct. I would say that's a very low cost. It's what we put in our CIP to do, what we really want to get at Playfair would come out of the master planning process, but I would imagine it would be more in the 8-9 million range to get that park into a place where we'd love to see it to service our community. Yeah.
Any other questions for Ryan? Comments?
So maybe I missed it in trying to read the document, but so Ryan, the master plan, park plan has not been completed for this?
It's a very old plan to my knowledge, and it was done, I think, maybe even before the 90s. So it needs a total redo based on today's, more current play standards, And, you know, I mean, one thing, we went back and forth. You know, one thing that really needs to be updated is the playground there. It's a sand playground that doesn't meet any current regulations and has very little play value left right outside of Splash, between the tennis courts and Splash. And we went back and forth, I think, as a department to say, do you pick off one small playground and do that? But what we feel the area needs is a master plan and a big comprehensive look, because it's an aging park that needs some investment in it. I'm not sure, Bruce, if that answers your question, but
Well, yeah,
that's what I know.
I'm probably not hearing it, but you'd asked for 20 grand to do update that master plan back in 2018. So that you've not done that, right?
Correct. That has not been done yet.
Okay.
And I went back and looked at our notes from that meeting, and I think I have the original, the fiscal year 19 ask. And I was trying to determine, I said the current request is 50,000 on the original ask, impact fee approved 20,000, and I didn't see notes and couldn't remember why there was the approval was for 20 and not 50. I just couldn't remember. I don't know if anyone does, but I think I did include that first ask in the packet.
I have no memory of that meeting, Ryan. So thanks for including that packet.
Neither I couldn't remember either. I was like, so yeah.
Do we have any other questions, or certainly would entertain a motion? I'm staring at Bruce again. He can't feel my eyes on him.
That's because I'm looking at the forms. Sorry, John. I'm still reading over those forms. I'm just trying to understand. I get a little lost in exactly how you apply a big, so we're redesigning the whole park, or we're just designing what's not being used? Ryan? We lost Ryan?
Ryan, you're muted.
Sorry, nope, I'm here. I was just on mute. It would be a whole park redesign. The examples that I give on the form are some of the major capacity increases that would come out of that design that we anticipate.
All right, that's helpful. All right, okay. So I move to approve the request of 150,000. Is that what you're asking for?
It would be 130 for this round to make a total of 150 when we add the 20.
So I move to approve 130,000 for the redesign of Playfair Park.
We have someone who would like to second that.
I'll second for the sake of discussion.
Thank you, Dwight. Okay. Further discussion?
So going back to the original one, when we were asking for the funds to help with the design, where are they in that process?
The 20,000, Dwight?
We have that 20,000. We have not spent any of those funds. We are hoping with capacity at our park and some of the kind of things we have in the pipeline right now. Our latest project communications meeting targets this for a fall of 2021 kickoff, planning process kickoff right now. That's where we're at right now.
Peter, you have a question? You get your hand up.
You're on mute, Peter.
We can't hear you.
Can't hear him.
Okay. It says you're muted, Peter.
Yeah, maybe if you want to just type in the chat or.
Bottom left-hand corner of your screen, does the show the mute?
Yeah, it
No?
shows him going on and off. I think he may have a microphone issue.
Oh,
So I just, for quick synopsis, Ryan, I guess basically the first request was for a much smaller scope, wasn't spent, and now you've just expanded the scope of the whole replanning, which is why the additional request.
you're muted, Ryan.
While he's trying to figure that out, I was just looking back at our spreadsheet, and I'm assuming that we still have things that are carried forward on here, and I'm not seeing anything for Playfair Park for $20,000. So if we want to approve another 130, I don't see the old 20 sitting on here. So I'm not sure. Seems like it should be here somewhere.
Ryan, can you let me know what year that was? It might have gotten caught in some older years and not brought forward.
I
I
think
think it was October of 18.
2018.
Yeah,
I think we lost Ryan. Is he?
yeah. We lost Ryan, we lost Peter too.
All right. Are we still at a quorum without Peter?
Peter's back.
Peter's back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just, forgive my ignorance, but I'm trying to understand these calculations and hoping someone could walk me through that one that references the 5 million. I was a bit confused by that. I know that Ryan had mentioned 9 million is the ultimate capital cost. Is somebody willing to walk me through that calculation?
So I'll give it a quick shot, Peter. I think one of the ways that projects qualify for impact fee is strictly on a population growth standard, and so he's using that. The 5 million is just his estimated cost of the full facility improvement.
I think I'm back on now, guys. I got kicked off, if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. And so based on the ordinance, 2% of that cost per year attributable to impact fees over the service life of that. And I think the 8 or 9 million was his assumption that this 5 million estimate of the total cost of the park replan was low. But he's basing his request just on a $5 million estimate. And that's actually one of our methodologies that's probably the most straightforward.
And John, is the 19 the estimated service life?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Whereas the 19
is the years since 2002. It's a number of years since 2002.
Yeah, since the enactment of the ordinance.
So basically, this form is telling us that this technically could be approved for $1.9 million, and they're asking for 130 now, and maybe it actually should be an ask of 150. We can't find out where the other 20 went.
Well, the other 20 was approved earlier, I believe. That's why I'm not asking.
Right. It's just not on our spreadsheets anymore. It's still being carried forward. So I don't want it to get lost somewhere because it's not showing up anywhere.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with the 130, 150 or whatever out of the million
The
nine?
1.9.
Where did
Yeah,
that?
that gets us to where we think we can move this project forward to really get to a full project build out, and so it gets us to that capital, helping us with starting the master planning process. And it also is in conjunction with looking at our kind of internal management of our impact fee. And as we move forward into our out years, how do we avoid going into those negative balances? Of course, we'd love to do 1.9 million, but we don't have that under our current impact fee. We're only collecting, I think, based on the latest impact fee study, about 10% of that. To maintain our level of service, we have a maximum impact fee to collect that is a lot greater than what we are actually collecting, and that's just because of the decisions and a lot of information going into those decisions. So it's our attempt to spread the as I think Donna likes to say, spread the same amount of peanut butter over more bread.
But Ryan, the $150,000 is going to give you an updated park design, right? That will look at expanding the capacity of the park.
Correct. That's what we're working for. Yep.
That's what he's asking the money for, is an updated park design.
And I think
That clarification.
just a quick note, and especially for the new folks, I think Parks and Transportation, we frequently see these requests come in staggered like this because again, they without knowing the cost, it would be hard for us to approve a $1.9 million fee right now on a cost that would be literally throwing darts at. So I think a lot of these we frequently see with Parks and Transportation where using the impact fee money first to determine what the costs are going to be, so that they can arrive at a logical quantitative amount of impact fees for the total project. Do we have any more discussion on this motion? We've got a motion to approve on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
We have opposed? Great, thank you. Thanks, Ryan. And next is still Ryan. Okay.
Yeah.
Chairman Freer, I want to hop in. I'm concerned we're going to really be pressed for time on the last agenda item. And I would request that we actually, I talked with Jeremy. I think we can delay those other public works projects until the next meeting. And I would ask Ryan if we could delay Northside Annex project so we can spend the remainder of the time on the Mullen area impact fee district.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So are we going to get to Ryan's last request? And Ryan,
I think that one can wait to the next meeting as well, right? I think we're developing our plan. We're still in the planning stage related to the Northside Annex Park, and we're still in the fundraising mode, which this is part of. But I think that one should be able to wait until the next meeting. Is that right, Ryan?
Yep, I agree.
Do we have any discussion on that? Any objections to moving those to the next meeting? See none. Jerry, you're up.
Okay, thanks everybody. Jeremy Keene, I'm the Director for Public Works Mobility. I'm going to give a quick introduction and then hand off to Colin McElwaney, who's our consultant, Tischler Bice. So this is a discussion about the special impact fee that's proposed for the Sutupcane area. That's the Mullen Road area. And this is to help fulfill the rest of the funding required to complete the build project. So the build project is providing a framework of infrastructure for what we've now dubbed the Sutupcane area master plan. And
really contains a vision for future neighborhoods, mix of uses, different businesses and services that will ultimately be order of magnitude about 6,000 new residential units and a good part of commercial and light industrial space as well. So Build's providing a backbone for that utility and road infrastructure that's needed for that development to happen. As you're probably aware, we received a $13 million federal build grant to help us get that project started. Ultimately, this will be about a $40 million project, so we still have a ways to go in terms of completing the rest of the funding. We applied for a 2020 build grant and were not successful. And so our strategy right now, until there are other opportunities to apply for grants, is to implement a special impact fee for transportation that would cover the remainder of the transportation costs, which we've estimated at $18.7 million. So the reason we're doing this is to really make sure that we're providing equity in terms of the way roads and utilities are built out there. Development typically would pay for this work. In this case, the city's being proactive in building this ahead of development. And we think that the build grant offers a benefit to development out there in terms of reducing costs, but there's still a share of the costs that should be passed along to the cost causers. It lets us assess those fees proportionally. Development shares in the cost based on their impact. So it's all based on traffic generation. So if you develop something that's generating more traffic, you pay more with impact fees, as I'm sure you know. It gives us a lot of predictability. Construction of infrastructure is often one of the big questions around development. And so this allows us to provide predictable growth and looking at what we think will ultimately be built out there. We can design roads and design sewer and water to accommodate that level of growth. And we hope that it results in lower cost because we're doing this with an economy of scale and spreading those benefits over that whole build grant area. So we asked Tischler Bice to look at a special impact fee district. It's a project-based approach, so it's tied to the specific projects that are included in the build grant project. And they went through the standard methodology of looking at those costs and how those fees would ultimately be played out. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Colin and he can take us through the details of what that looks like, and then we'll have some time for questions.
Great, thanks, Jeremy. Let me see, yep, I can share my screen here. Just get started. So good afternoon. Yeah, I'm Colin McElweeny with Tischler Bice. As sort of mentioned earlier, during this meeting, we completed the citywide impact fee update a couple years ago. We were scoped here to put together the special area impact fee for the transportation projects necessary in the Mullen Road Master Plan or the Supkin area. It's a pretty short slide presentation here. We want to go through the projections in that growth area, the list of projects, our analysis, the fee schedule, and then lastly, some projections. So the study area and also the benefit area for this impact fee is shown here. So it's not just the master plan area. Certainly with road projects, they benefit a wider area than just the site of construction. So the benefit zone here is north of the river, north and east of the river, south of the airport, and west of 93. So here, this is where the impact fee is going to be collected on new development, but spent directly in this area here. Like Jeremy mentioned, there is a decent amount, actually a large amount of growth projected in the study area. So from today through 30 years to 2050, we're projecting about 8,500 homes or over 17,000 new residents. On the commercial side, about nearly 6,400 new jobs over 30 years. And that's over 3 million square feet of non-residential floor area. A lot of that being industrial sites, but also retail and some office. So if you're not familiar with the Mullen Plan, here's just a sort of screenshot of the overall build out for the road projects. You can see some of these have already been secured with the first round of the build grant. Then there's a number of other ones that need to be funded through other sources. And that's where this comes in. So there's, I think 10 or 11 projects that were included in this fee study. We are taking a plan-based approach, which means that the impact fee revenue can only be spent on these projects here. It totals about nearly $29 million. These are current costs, and as you know, costs are probably going to go up, but we're just using current costs right now. Along with that $28 million is other engineering and administrative costs included, so that gets us to $35 million total. Now we have that 2019 build grant, which brought in $13 million. Missoula County is bringing in some other funds, and also the citywide impact fee is contributing a bit more. So total, we have $18.6 million that is attributed to growth. We're spreading that over 30 years. And over the next 30 years, we're seeing a vehicle mile travel increase of 670,000 VMT increase over 30 years. So we divide that total number that's eligible to $18.6 million by that 30-year increase in VMT to get $27 per VMT. And that's going to be used in our fee calculations to determine the impact fee for the land use types. So you can see here in the fee schedule where we have vehicle trip ends. There's several other factors that are contributed to that. In this up top here is the residential fee schedule is structured the same way as a citywide fee schedule. So you have residential units by the size. So it starts at 750 square feet or less, then goes up incrementally by 250 square feet, all the way up to 4,000 square feet and beyond. And the impact fee is scaled based on that because through analysis, vehicle trip rates were increasing as the size of the home increases. Also, we have 4 non-residential land uses included here: retail, office, industrial, and institutional. They all have their different vehicle trip generation and VMT generation, and you can see the fees there at on the right. So the maximum supportable fee for the smallest home is about $1,000. That goes up to $2,600 for the largest of homes. On the commercial side, retail is about $2,200 per 1,000 square feet. Then we're down to about $400 per 1,000 square feet for industrial. We've also included a mixed use fee schedule. So looking at, generally accepted methodologies for mixed use development, there are less vehicle trip generation for those development types. Now there's a number of different requirements that a development has to meet to be considered a mixed use development and apply for these fee schedule, which is slightly less. You can see the second to last column for residential types. It's about a 30% decrease in vehicle trips. So it's about 36% decrease in the fee. Also, office and retail receives a discount as well. So looking at the maximum supportable fee amounts over the next 30 years, we apply that to the projected growth. Over 30 years, that's an increase for a revenue of $18.6 million. That does completely offset gross share of this project. And now that's at the maximum supportable fee amount. If the city were to adopt a lower amount, either certain projects would have to be removed or other funding gaps would be necessary to fully fund this project here. So with that, I'll just open it back up to the committee for questions and comments.
Thanks, Colin. So comments, questions?
So thanks for getting this stuff to us early, Jeremy. Really appreciate it. Another good chance to review and look at everything and look at it as time went on. And thanks for the presentation. Really appreciate that too. Do we need, as a committee, and again, I can comment on this, as you know, I'm not going to vote on it. Do we have to look at a worksheet for this according to our impact fee bylaws, or does the slideshow we just saw represent that?
You mean are you talking about the I think this is an implementation of a new impact fee. So I'm not sure that we would have a submitted form for that. Was that your question? Okay. Jer, yeah.
So so this is a new ordinance. So I should have mentioned at the beginning, we do have a public hearing coming up on Monday night, the 22nd, for City Council to consider this as a new impact fee ordinance. So it's a similar ordinance to the citywide impact fee, but it is a separate fee, and you would, as this committee, would still be involved in approving the projects that are going forward with the build project, but it is very narrowly constrained to those projects that are defined in the build project.
So I have a question for you, Bruce. You're fingering your fingers up, so that's great. We're thinking the same way. Can you give me your assessment, since this is a new ordinance, what we should be looking at, what the criteria for our decision should be?
I missed that. What'd you say, Nick?
Since this is a new ordinance, what criteria should we be looking at as committee members as we consider this request?
Well, my understanding is our action as the impact fee committee is simply to recommend approval or recommend disapproval. That's simply it. And it's rather unique. We've never had to do that, as I recall, because so this will be the first, I'd call, sub-district fee that the city's ever considered. What would be helpful to me to understand a little bit about it, Jeremy or whoever, but is why this area? How does it distinguish itself from other growth areas in Missoula? In other words, let's look at Miller Creek, Linda Vista Miller Creek, a high growth area. I'm trying to think. Let's look at west. Let's look at west of Reserve, the Target Range area, potentially large growth areas. You're going to answer it, Dale?
I was just raising my hand to address Nick's question. I'll let Jeremy and Colin address the study area question. But
go ahead,
Chair. Okay. I'm so used to formal parliamentary procedure here. I was waiting for permission to talk. Go
ahead, Dale.
So that, so what I think the Impact Fee Advisory Committee's responsibility here is to make a recommendation to council relative to this district, which is really proposed in the version of not necessarily the presentation, but the study itself that it was included in the original packets. Now, the presentation that Colin just did was a summary of that presentation, but I think the study itself is the document that the Impact Fee Advisory Committee would make its basis recommendation on. Does that answer your question, Nick?
Dale, that really helps. I did get a chance to go through the whole study and all the information. I mean, Lisa and Jeremy, you just did a great job of getting this information to us in a timely fashion. There's a lot of it here, and I appreciate it. I got to read it all.
But Dale, in the agenda, the motion that's written there is to support or deny the creation of the district.
So the only thing that we've done that's similar to this is when we did the downtown reduction.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, thanks. That's right, John.
But yeah, we have not looked at the implementation of any new impact fees.
That's right. The downtown district is exactly this area.
So I would be remiss if I didn't comment. First of all, I think I'm disappointed that the first time that this comes in front of IFAC is in the form of a recommended motion that is already slated for a public hearing next Monday night. And, you know, I don't know that it really, we did get the packet information and I do appreciate that and being able to look at it. But I have a couple questions as well and maybe rhetorical, but out of those, again, so the agenda item is only for us to recommend approval or disapproval of this new impact fee study. I think we could also make a recommendation based on if we determine that the maximum supportable amount or something less than the maximum supportable amount would be amenable to this committee. But I just have a lot of heartburn over this. I think that it was really unfortunate in the way that really it seems the whole part of the update of the impact fee ordinance was really designed to come up with this study to support a new impact fee. And, you know, I think that we really not only could have helped support the discussion on it, we can also be good advocates in the community in explaining why or why not these things get implemented. And so, I'm just disappointed that we really didn't get a chance to weigh in on it until this point in time. I also recognize the value of it, and I don't discount that. But you know, in looking at using these 6,000 or 8,500 total units, that's the number that's in the study. We're looking solely at what costs they generate in this impact. We don't look at any of the offsets that they provide over the course of those 30 years in the tax base that comes in. And, you know, that's, as a city, we support TIF districts and we support them on the premise that if we fund out front, that the added tax base that comes in is going to pay for those improvements and more. But it doesn't seem like when it comes to residential, we really give that added tax base any credit. And yeah, so I'm going to have a hard time supporting it. That's my last comment, I guess.
John, can I respond to your comments there?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, my understanding of this, and Dale can expand on it, but the only way property taxes would ever go to fund something like these improvements would be through a special improvement district, where you create a district and they pay for it. Otherwise, when you look at what property taxes go for in municipal government, it's for services, it's not improvements. So this is really the only avenue to fund improvements is through, you know, transportation wise, you could use gas tax, which is generally used for maintenance. And then the impact fee really was created for the revenues in order to make these improvements because we didn't have any other means to fund it. And so, and especially what's unique here too, in my mind, is that these are very special projects that are being listed. When you look at the other study for the general city, it's not based upon projects as much as general need. Where you have an area like this where you have specific projects, then that this is actually a more accurate way to do impact fees than what we've done even historically, because you have that very specific list.
Bruce, you brought up one good point that we had significant debate on when the Impact Fee Advisory Committee was first formed, and that was with special improvement districts. And it was one of the big reasons that the committee decided that we would look initially at a citywide impact fee, because it was really difficult to target those areas and only use those impact fee monies in those areas. It begs the question of why would this not be a good example of a special impact district, where the end user, ultimately the homeowner who is paying the impact fee, would then have an opportunity to pay the impact fee over time, rather than just in an inflated cost of housing. So, and it's a question as to why an SID wouldn't be a similar tool to use for the project like this. Jer?
John, if I may, so I want to respond to Bruce's initial question about why here and why wouldn't we do this elsewhere? I think that it is potentially a template for something we could do in other places. In this case, it's a very definable set of projects that benefit specific properties, and so we thought that it made sense to try to attribute those costs to the properties that benefit. We could do this citywide. We could use citywide impact fees to fund this. We could add it to our road district assessment. We could do other things, but it would spread that cost over everybody in the city, and it raises a lot of questions of whether that's equitable or not. We also did look at a special improvement district, and the reason that we're recommending a special impact fee is that it only applies to new development. So if we did a special improvement district, all the existing residents out there would also have to pay into this. And so that is an option. They will benefit from these improvements as well, but we think that the cost causers really are new development coming in and adding that additional demand. And so it made sense to us to formulate that as an impact fee on development, rather than spreading that to all of the existing residents.
So Jeremy, Dale, so if we were to do a special improvement district, the thing about a special improvement district I like is it's spread out over 20 or 30 years, and you pay it each year in your taxes. You're not borrowing money from the bank to pay your taxes. But what I don't like about a special improvement district is the 15 plus 25% administrative fee and revolving fund fee that adds to the total cost, right? I think it's got a Davis-Bacon wage requirement as well, but I'm not sure the impact fees do. The other thing but impact fees are one time upfront. The homeowner pays those one time, but then pays principal and interest. But at 2.5% mortgage interest, how much is that? I like the fact that it's an impact fee for a district. You've heard me speak when I first came on the committee, where I had questions about where the impact money was coming from versus where we were spending it. So Bruce mentioned a minute ago that the South Hills is a growth area. It's really not. Lower Miller Creek is a growth area. The South Hills is not a growth area, but we improved Hillview Way with impact fees, and a whole bunch of other tools that we needed. I understand that local government needs funding. So there's some things about this I like when I compare it to other things, but I have a lot of other questions about it too. So thank you.
Can I make a comment? So I just pulled up what this committee is all about, and it basically is one paragraph of what our job is. And so I'm just going to read it real quick. Now, therefore, be it resolved that a 9-member City of Missoula Impact Fee Advisory Committee of Missoula County appointed by the mayor and city council with the advice and consent of the city council for 4-year terms, with 4 initial committee members appointments being only for 2 years. Then this is our purpose, one sentence. For the purpose to review and monitor the process of calculating, assessing, and spending impact fees, and advise the City of Missoula governing body with respect to these impact fee revenues as provided by Montana state law is hereby established. I think this recommendation that, you know, that we either say yay or nay on creating goes beyond our scope. You know, we're here to review it, make sure that people are requesting it and what they're requesting is proper according to the rules that are established for impact fees. But, you know, we're being asked to basically say, you should or should not establish this. And that, to me, that's beyond my scope. So I'm not willing to vote either way on that. I'm not willing to say you should or you shouldn't do it, because I think it's beyond the scope of what this committee is set up to do. So I think it's, you know, it's an attempt to, hey, well, the impact fee committee likes it. Well, I'm not going to say that. I'll oversee it. You know, if it becomes a special impact fee and it's part of our duty to oversee it as we're doing on the others, then great. That's part of my duty. It's not my duty to say, yes, this is a good thing, or yes, it's a bad thing. That's just my opinion.
I think you could, Jim, I think you can advise on it and make comments about it.
Yeah, but we're being asked to recommend,
Yeah, okay.
supporting, or denying. That goes beyond, you know, saying, you know, that goes beyond any advising. That goes beyond, you know, city council asking us, you know, well, do the calculations look, you know, has the methodology been used like the other stuff and things like that. We're actually being asked to comment, is this a good way to do this or not? And I just think that's beyond our scope. And if other people are comfortable with saying that, okay, I'm not, and I'm not really even comfortable saying deny it. You know, I'm not comfortable doing that either. I just don't think it's our place to do either. But
So that was the question I asked Bruce right off the bat. I was trying to figure out what we were supposed to do. Next time, Bruce, I'm going to ask Jim.
Well, remember, I always have my little book, and literally it's one sentence.
Well, if I could jump in. So, you know, neither Jeremy nor I were around when council adopted that sentence.
No.
You know, and I made that, and so, you know, but it does say revenues, and this is revenues, and so, you know, it would be the advice. So it could be construed that this is this district is created based and it's advising council on the revenue creation. Now, I would agree. I think it is the pleasure of the Impact Fee Advisory Committee how that advising of council takes place. It could be you know, if you don't, you know, is it like we think that impact fees are a legitimate tool or anything like that? I think is appropriate, but it's I don't think you should feel tied to the recommended motion in there. That was based on, you know, looking at that paragraph and saying, well, they do advise relative to revenues, and this is revenues.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point, Jim. In some ways, it really is not, for this one, it's not much different than any other transportation project that would come before us. We have an estimated dollar amount of what the total build out is going to be and a breakdown of the funding and how much of that funding is going to come from impact fees. But yeah, I mean, as far as creating the policy, that's, I'm not sure if it is our role then to say yay or nay of whether the council is going to create the policy. And I think it's, yeah, I mean, I see it as something that the council would like a recommendation on. Whether they follow it or not, it remains to be up to their will, but
the question I have is what's the basis for what we make that recommendation? I mean, Jeremy and Dale, what I hope is you have a very robust public meeting. I really do. I hope the public comes and gives you all kinds of information. I know you've been asking for it. You know, at the end of the slideshow, it's a great slideshow, and you ask for comments and you ask for questions. But when we started this conversation, I was wondering about what I was going to say, what was appropriate to say in terms of information or questions, and what to look at for criteria. That's why I asked the question, where's the worksheet, John, which you kind of interpolated just a minute ago, and then I got Jim's purpose. So I have a potential conflict, so I'm not going to vote.
Chairman John, this is Ryan. I was wondering if I could just offer just something that I remember from, I think, the original impact fee and what that we just did, the impact fee study we did in 2018. And I believe from my memory, the impact fee committee recommended, or I think the wording that came out from impact fee regarding that study, without looking at a verbatim, was that it was completed and done according to law, that basically it was a valid study. And I don't believe it was whether it was approved or recommended or not. So I guess I just thought it might be something for this context. I don't know if people remember it that way or not, and I don't have it right in front of me right now.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. That's a good point, and I think that's what we did. We just verified that the study was complete and it was a valid study. Based on what, with Jim's point with the charge, is that even really what the responsibility of this committee is supposed to be? And I'm still thinking.
Well, I would argue that we ought to be versed in the study. We have that responsibility as a committee to understand how these fees were determined. Are they something that we're acceptable in as far as methodology? Because we should have some expertise in that, since we're dealing with projects all the time. The concept of taking an area like this and looking at the cost of the future infrastructure and then trying to figure out the incremental costs to new development. That's what the study's based on. Is that a methodology that we're comfortable with as a group? Because it's something that, I guess what I'm trying to think about is, we should at least understand it. Because as these funds come forward to the committee, we're going to be responsible for agreeing to disseminate them. It's
yeah, and I think that's so with that line of thought and that discussion, that it's always been one of the things we debate is that methodology, and based on that methodology, distinguishing what percentage is attributable to growth and what percentage is not, and we've already recognized that existing residents are still going to see benefit out of this growth or out of these projects. It's not just going to be the new development that uses these arterials and benefits from the new trails, and it's people within that existing service district. That's was really back to the original question of why isn't an SID an effective tool for something like this?
Well, maybe we need to have explained to us where the $2 million number comes from in regards to using current fees, which would be more current users.
So I'm not saying that the report's not good or anything else, but, and maybe it's because I've dealt with litigation support. If I'm on a witness stand, I don't start answering questions before they're asked. And so I'm comfortable if city council wants to come to us in the discussion and say, hey, what do you guys think? What do you think about this study? Yada, yada, yada. That's the advise part in my mind of that, advise the city on these things. I just am not comfortable in, without even being asked. We haven't been asked by the city council. We haven't been asked by, any governing authority. We're offering up an opinion and we haven't even been asked a question. So that's where I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not saying anything about the study. It looks wonderful and all that. I wasn't a part of it. So, but I'm just not comfortable in answering a question that has not been asked.
I think, and Dale, maybe you can speak to this. I mean, I think that's why the recommended motion was put on the agenda. Is that correct?
The recommended motion, frankly, it was to provide your advice relative to this study to council. We put it in the form of recommend or denying the creation. But I think any form of a motion would be appropriate, I think that the committee could take the position that it's not your role, and that would be fine too. I do want to back up one thing on something you said, John, and I think something that I want to highlight again that Colin said is that this impact fee is calculated on a different basis than our other impact fees. All of our other impact fees use the incremental expansion method. And so in that method, we've made at the time of this, that we determined that the level of the service at the time of that study, that was the baseline, and capacity expansions beyond that are what's eligible for impact fees in broad statements. This is a plan-based approach. So what the study is saying is that for the specific projects listed in this study, you can only use the impact fees on those projects. City, you are promising to do those projects, and if impact fees are insufficient, you have to come up with the money. But these impact fees it is allocating that amount of growth. The study is saying that this is the growth share, and the impact fees raised from this are going to be used on those roads. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
And Dale, speak to the whole thing about these infrastructure improvements, the need for them in order for enabling growth.
Well, yeah, I think though. So this has been targeted by council as the area of growth for the city. I mean, our growth policy has this grow inward, but we recognize the fact that that is not going to be able to keep up with the population growth we're expecting. We did the Mullen area, the Souped Up Cane Plan, in order to target this specific area for growth. This is really the city's first foray into building infrastructure proactively. You can speak to this, Bruce. All of our governmental monies related to like gas tax or the road district, they're all about maintenance or fixing a broken road. This is new. When we got the build grant, we are now being proactive. We got half of what we asked for, and so this is the tool we are, because we do see the public benefit, not only in improving the transportation system, but really providing an area where we can get a lot of residential development and the kind of residential development we want.
Historically, the city has made that jump in public sewer. We've expanded, and we used, for instance, the sewer pipe going down 3rd Street west to Reserve was built with sewer development fee funds 100% in order to assist development in that area. There was some assistance from the development area, but not a lot. And with the idea that we would collect that fee to build, to finish that pipe, or reimburse the city for that pipe. So this is a similar concept you're building these roads in order to enable development. Because I think one of the points I saw in the presentation, one of the biggest problems the city has is that it burdens the developer to build a portion of a major facility. I think the struggles with George Elmer Drive, for instance, is an excellent example of where we force the developer to try to build a portion of it, but not build the whole facility. And it kind of gets hodgepodge, and it, you know, gets increments get built, this and that. This is really more of a major step in assisting development to develop that area. For instance, the other one that is an example is Mary Jane Boulevard. Mary Jane Boulevard, the portion in the subdivision portion is built, but it's dead end. It doesn't function because the north and the south end has not been built. So when you don't rely on the developer to build these road infrastructures at the time of development, it becomes hodgepodge or it doesn't get complete. So this is really proactive on the city's part to try to get it done, especially with the grant that's going to go there. You know, so it is a very, both on the, I see you got sewer and water also on that study, but it's a way to get things done rather than having the developer have to get stuck with a portion of it when it's being right in his development, and it might just dead end.
Just one point, Dale. Spent a lot of time with Mike Haynes and Laval Means way back when we adopted our Missoula growth policy. And I ultimately did get in writing a determination that the Mullen Road area is included in the grow inward terms in the growth policy.
And I don't want to interrupt anyone, but I would love to help answer any questions concerning the study or eligibility of these projects, gross share of the projects. If there's any questions regarding that, you know, I'm here to help answer those.
Colin, can you explain the $2 million that's in that budget there?
Yeah, so you know, in a lot of impact fee studies, and I'm sure you're well aware of this, we include credits to ensure there's no double payment scenarios.
Yeah.
A lot of times that comes into play of paying a future resident paying that impact fee, but also paying property tax or sales tax that is also funding that same project. So we include an offset within the fee study to make sure there's not that double payment scenario. So there is a slight, you know, that $2 million of funding from the citywide impact fee. So same scenario, this new resident is paying, theoretically paying this special district impact fee, but also the citywide impact fee. Portion of that citywide impact fee revenues is, you know, offsetting or is being used to fund these projects. So we're just including that to reduce the fee, the special district fee, so there's not a double payment scenario. Similar, you know, with the build grant, you know, it's another revenue source that we need to exclude from the final payment to get gross share.
But how do you determine that dollar amount? Can you help us understand that? Because like, if I'm looking at all of the new units are going to go in there, they're going to pay on the existing city transportation impact fee dollar amount. They're going to pay, you know, a portion there, but only 2 million seems to be going back into the district or into this.
So Bruce, what happened was prior to getting the build grant, we had 3 projects planned and funded with impact fees. So George Elmer Drive and Mullen, and Mary Jane South, Mary Jane North. And so when we got the build grant, we also had to obligate a local match. And so we used that, we rolled all 3 of those projects together into a $2 million local match that went into the build project. So that's how that number got there.
I want to be conscious of the time that we're at, and Colin, Mike, what I want is the perfect formula so that we can actually know exactly what's attributable to growth and what's not. And I know that doesn't exist.
Yeah, John, to just sort of chime in, to do sort of, you know, off the cuff, you know, back of the envelope analysis, if we say 2050 is, you know, the term of this infrastructure, right now, the current residents have about 33% of that future demand at 2050. So we could say 66% can be attributed to growth. If we look at sort of the breakdown of the total cost of these projects, reducing it by the different funding, especially the build grant. I believe we're less than 50%. So I think theoretically, we're probably not fully charging gross fair share because just
That's
sort of
helpful.
looking at that.
And I think, you know, when we move forward in our next discussion, our next meeting, and we start talking about these updated forms, that's really something that I think we need to get out of that, to have a much more manageable. But do we have a motion on this right now? We haven't had anybody make a motion.
Well, Jim or Nick have to do it.
And
It's not even voting.
well, that's what I'm asking. Is there anybody in the committee that wants to put forth a motion? We have the option.
I'm trying to figure out something in my mind that is as slippery as it is long. So
how about something Dale, can you give us something in regards to the study itself? You know, that we, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of something. We reviewed it and
the assumptions the assumptions made by the city were reasonable or something. I mean, it could be as simple as something like that.
And is that, I guess, back to Jim's first comment, if it's not our role to approve or disapprove this as a policy, if we're approving the study, is that going to serve as tacit approval of the policy? And can we make no recommendation?
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I think you can make no recommendation.
John, for me, having the information, having enough time to review it, to disseminate it in the community, to get comments on it, is real valuable as we move forward in our decisions of how we spend these funds.
That again, I'm not really sure what you said with that.
I think I heard him say he's not ready to talk about it. Is that what you're saying, Nick? Make a recommendation about it anyway.
Yeah, I'm not willing to make a recommendation. I mean, for me, it's a great discussion and it's a lot of work, and it was really interesting reading, and we talked about a lot of different aspects of it. That'll help me going forward as we continue in impact fee committee work, whether it's allocation of funds in this area or other areas. I think it's very, very beneficial to the committee. It's a piece of information.
Do we have any motions from the floor at this time?
I move to approve the study.
Did anyone second? So we have a motion without a second.
So the motion dies then.
Motion
That's
dies.
okay. I just was trying to get us to move off.
Which means we have no more discussion for it at this point. So we're moving on to item 3.5, which is other.
So, well, to close the previous discussion, I think the other way that the Impact Fee Advisory Committee could participate in this is that there will be a public hearing on Monday. Wednesday, there will be at a Public Works Committee. Is that right, Jeremy? There'll be a committee work related to this for council, and then final consideration is the following Monday. So those are all public meetings that IFAC members sure could attend, and it would be great if you would.
So let me throw out something here, and just if you think it's doesn't mean anything, then great. But I was thinking something along the lines of, while the Impact Fee Advisory Committee feels it is beyond our scope to recommend approval or denial of the Special Mullen Area Transportation District, we feel that the impact fee study, the particular impact fee study, is a valuable report to be considered in future discussions of this project area. It doesn't say that we are approving the study. We're just saying, hey, it's a good piece of work that can be used going forward. And if that doesn't say anything, then fine, we don't do it. But that gives a little something that lets the council know that, yeah, we actually looked at this thing. We feel it's beyond our scope to approve or deny it, or ask for approval or deny it. There's probably a better way to say it.
Jim, did you want to enter that as a motion and read that again? Or did you pick that up, Lisa? Did you want to?
I can say it again.
You know, I picked up part of it, but I can go back and listen to the video of it. If you guys want to go ahead and move ahead, it's no problem.
Well, I'll make it as a motion, and I'll read it a little bit slower.
Okay, great. Thank you.
It says, while the Impact Fee Advisory Committee feels it is beyond our scope to recommend approval or denial of the Special Mullen Area Transportation District, we feel that the Tischler Bice impact fee study is a valuable report to be considered in future discussions of this project area.
I can second that.
I want to make sure that your motion applies to 3.4.1 and not 3.5, which is what we move forward to.
3.4.1. Sorry.
I second it, John.
Bruce second. So discussion on the motion?
Thanks, Jim.
Jim, I thank you. I can support that.
Jim, can you read it one more time, please?
Yes. While the Impact Fee Advisory Committee feels it is beyond our scope to recommend approval or denial of the Special Mullen Area Transportation District, we feel that the impact fee study, and you can name it by name so it's clear, is a valuable report to be considered in future discussions of this project area. So I think in essence, we're giving it validity, but we're not, it's just beyond our scope to say yay or nay. Give me a wink or a nod or a shake with your head, Nick.
I'd just offer, John, if I may,
Yes.
just a little bit of comment or in discussion. And that would be that, yes, it's not our place to approve or reject. I think that's city council's, and it'll be going in front of city council as a hearing. And I'm guessing they have the authority to approve or reject. I know that our charge has to do with advising the city council. And so I don't know if it offers much to say that it's beyond our scope to not be able to approve or reject.
Yeah, I guess for me, I was really more comfortable with no recommendation. If it's beyond our scope to comment on it, then
Well, no, he didn't say comment on. I thought he said to make a recommendations to deny or approve the district. I think we're clearly within our role to comment on it. I think that's what Jim's motion is saying, is that we looked at, we're not in a role to deny or approve the district, but we are in a role to review the study, and that we reviewed it. What was your wording, Jim? You said more specifically on the study. You said it was a valid study or something?
I just said is a valuable report to be considered in future discussions of this project area.
Yeah.
and I don't want to discount Colin and the study. I think it is a valid study and it is a valuable tool. I'm not sure I don't necessarily see the purpose of making that statement, but do we have any other comment on it? If not, we'll call the question. So all in favor of the motion?
You're gonna raise your hand, Jim? You got 3.
And so opposed? And 2 no votes.
Pass.
Who was the second no vote on that, John?
Oh, I'm sorry, one nay, 2 abstain.
Okay, thank you.
So that motion carries. Now moving on to 3.5. Any other? How about
But-
next meeting?
Sorry, before I don't have the floor anymore, I just wanted to double back on something that was brought up much earlier about the form that the committee uses. And then in the Tischler Buys citywide study, it was included in the scope, sort of a more sort of implementation assistance. And we haven't completed that task yet, so there is still funding available. And me and Carson Buys, the president of the firm, we can work together with Dale, Jeremy, and their team to sort of put this updated form together for the committee.
And I guess if we could ask if there were members of the committee that would participate in that work as well, I think it's a big part of making a little bit more consistency in submittals and more clarity for staff, and just make it easier for us to have a better understanding of approval. And especially as we roll people off the committee, I think that can be a really useful tool. I think it's an important part of that study to complete.
Yeah, we'll move forward with that. Yep. Mhm.
Thank you.
And I volunteer to be part of that group if you want somebody from the IFAC committee.
And we're actually starting a Missoula County impact fee study, so we may be in the area if you're able to meet in person as well. We could do that as part of this task here.
Yeah, if Bruce is going to volunteer, I think part of the diversity you see on the impact fee committee is you've got people that represent the private sector and the public sector. So I love being on the teeter-totter with Bruce. We balance each other really, really well. So I'll volunteer too.
No, I don't think I can balance your mustache there, Nick. It seems to be much better.
I have to have goals in life, Bruce. I'm working on it.
So John, in regards to if we're in the other area, and I raised my hand at the very beginning so that people would know up front, but it kind of got lost, and then we started talking financials, and I just decided to wait till other. I will be resigning from the committee. This is actually my last tax season at JCCS, and I'm going to be moving on, and I'm actually going to become a resident of Ravalli County. So I'll be here through June 30. I'll be, I think that's I don't know when my term actually ends, but I'll be resigning at that point.
I moved it.
I think I've been on it since day one, so it's probably time.
Oh, you and you're the last one, Jim. I was hoping to get out before you.
I second your motion, John. It's rejected.
I deny that request, Jim. So, well, that's good. Great. Good for you.
Yeah, congratulations, Jim.
And it doesn't, so it doesn't get you out of when we do meet face to face again. You're going to have to show up and buy.
Absolutely. Hopefully we'll be able to do that next time.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still here and I will totally buy.
Yeah. So do we have anything else? And Dale, you mentioned the next meeting. Do you have a target for that, or?
I'm hoping to get back to quarterly meetings. Lisa and I will work with you, John, to get that set up and get the agenda. And so right now, we know we have the agenda items that we didn't get to today, plus, finishing the, finishing the original contract with Tischler Buys on the forms.
That's
I
great.
want to acknowledge all the work that Dale, your staff, and Lisa and Lee and the fire department, Parks and Rec, City Engineer's Office, Public Works put into the forms to bring these to us. And if we're going to go to quarterly, you guys are going to spend a lot more time on that. I just want you to know it's really appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Yes, and thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. And I'm sorry we're 14 minutes late.
Yeah. Oh, and Lee did send out new financials. With the updated numbers, it looks it looks a lot better. So
Find the $20,000 from the park,
No,
the earlier park.
I'm going to connect with folks to make sure that we, Parks and Public Works, to make sure that we get in all of the appropriate projections. And so we'll be sending updated projections to folks when we do that with the 20 for Parks.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Have a good weekend.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time.